Wow, unbelievable. Wildcard Gaming versus 4 Zoomers, game 1 of this best of 3. The winner of this series gets 4th place, which could have huge implications on whatever the hell is going to go after this event.
Could have.
Yeah, could have. Yeah, I can barely hear you. Cap, are you okay? You sound far away. Which multiverse are you in now?
I think the wrong microphone was shut off. Hello.
Greetings.
What do you mean could have? You're the one who broke the news and knows.
Yeah, but no one believes it. So we'll see. I guess we'll just find out.
Classic stuff.
But looking at this series, like you said in the panel, Wildcard Gaming and 4 Zoomers, they faced off against each other 2 days ago, and Wildcard Gaming got absolutely crushed, just like Sammy Boy is getting crushed with that tag team right now. There's going to be First Blood going the way of Moo on Darkseer, which is the hero of the game. And I would ask you your thoughts, but I've already heard them. You love it.
I do love it. I think this is exactly the kind of swerve that really good drafting teams managed to get themselves like a really big advantage. They knew this TB was coming. I called it out in the draft. You know, if I can call a hero and predict that it's going to get picked, then surely the opposing drafting team knows, right? And Darkseer's so good. He pressures TB in lane with the constant ion shell spam. His wall of replica is amazing versus TB. He creates enough like confusion to be able to ruin TB in these team fights, and they needed something to be able to break that aspect of Wildcard because their current, just sit around Tidehunter with a meta TB was going to be really hard to beat in team fights.
You thought you had me.
Yeah, so with that said, though, 4 Zoomers, again, this is kind of a untraditional lineup a bit. They don't really have a normal carry per se. It's the Kunkka being played by Costabile, and you have Lycan, which I guess has been played some position 1, being played by Gunner mid. What do you think of these two cores in a game like this with the Darkseer accompanying them?
I think the biggest test for Zoomers is definitely going to be this kind of switch of play styles where Costabile may be playing safe lane Kunkka, but he probably needs to be the one who is maybe most active among the 3 different cores. Like, Gunner can make moves whenever his shapeshift is up, but if it's off cooldown, it relies entirely on Z-Freak and Costabile to actually make fights happen and get picks. Otherwise, they are a very passive team. So if they're comfortable with being able to make that playstyle switch, then I think it's great. But Gunner has traditionally been, for 4 Zoomers this year and last year, he's been the playmaker. He's been the guy who literally tells me, I don't care death. As long as I make moves. So it is different for sure.
Now, this is an interesting question that you won't have an answer to, but we can discuss the various possibilities. Okay. Sammy Boy, obviously on 4 Zoomers previously. Do you think that 4 Zoomers are in his head right now? Because in their last series, I think he won a combined 1 and 20 million. I want to say something around
I think
there, take a few.
You're rounding up a little bit, but I think it's about right.
And he got first blooded here today. And he is a player that can be very tilted. I think that's well documented.
Yeah.
How much do you think that plays into this series?
I think it goes both ways. Like the fact that Sammy is such an emotional player, but you also, if you've interacted with him, you know that he has what I would say is an insatiable confidence in himself, Like, he really hypes himself up. So it might be that he has shaken off those previous losses, and I think there's an easy excuse for him too, right? We are still growing as a team. We are a much newer, put-together roster. Nobody expected us to be this good on the first season. Well, I think people did expect 4 Zoomers to be a pretty decent contenders, especially since many would say on paper they made upgrades from their previous roster.
Yeah,
so
for sure. I mean, there's definitely less pressure for Wildcard, but now that you're in this spot against your former team for the number 4 spot, I think the pressure might be mounting a bit, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out for Sammy Boy. Always rooting for him. Mid lane, but we can talk about this, the lanes individually now. Esk playing the Death Prophet versus Gunner's Lycan that we've already talked about. Death Prophet versus Lycan in general.
Yeah.
I mean, Death Prophet's usually pretty happy against melee. Does this change anything?
I think that the one thing that Death Prophet does really well is bully heroes out of lane with superior trading of Spirit Siphon. But Lycan is just one of those enduring laners, right? Because you get level 2 of Feral Impulse, you have 3 bonus regen just from that, plus your natural strength regen as well. He's got 6.7, now 7.7 when he's next to the tower, regen a second. So I actually think Gunnar will do pretty fine in this. Like, I'm not expecting him to be bullied out. And once he gets 6, then he can actually, with 1 rotation, kill the Death Prophet.
Yeah, should be. I mean, I don't even know what kind of build you go with a mid Lycan. Like at TI, we saw a bunch of the Aghanim stuff. That's the offlane Lycan building Ags, and they don't really have anybody that really takes advantage of that. I can't imagine a Kunkka Lycan being anything special. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Top lane. I mean, there's a lot of minus armor on both sides, actually. So Roche might be a hot contest here for both respective teams. But it's going to be Costabile and the Kunkka, Husky Weaver versus Tide and Snapfire. What do you think of this laning setup?
That is definitely that is the lane that Wildcard could conceivably win, but I think it's still really difficult. For me, Kunkka, for my money, like Kunkka is one of the hardest laners to beat right now. It's like the safe lane version of Queen of Pain. Like, how do you deal with this hero that can constantly harass you and has these easy sustain mechanics? Is Sammy Boy's actually in trouble again? He's just dead.
Yep, that is the. We're gonna keep track. Second death of the game for him.
So I believe he's 120 million and 2 now. 20 million.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's fairly accurate. He did get the 1 kill, I believe, on Ogre Magi with a nice multicast. We could maybe get a highlight of that after this series is over. At least a highlight reel of that 1 kill.
How does the rounding go, by the way? If he goes over 5 deaths, does that become 21 million? Because he's about to get his start.
I don't know, but he's racking them up again, though. I guess we'll have to find out. But my good, he TPs in and dies again. Right on cue.
Oh, no.
0 and 3 for Mr. Sammy Boy. I mean, it is. I've talked about this with Waga and Cinderin, and probably Jenkins, but I never remember any of the conversations I had with him.
Fair.
But the fact that his Husky top lane is getting bursted down, one more right click will do it. But the fact that he's gone from position 1 to 5 is a huge difference. And I think overall, he's definitely surprised me in how well he's played this season.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that, like, conceptually, he has a strong understanding of Dota, and if he wants to captain, the best position, do it from his 5. So I think this is honestly only natural, because Sammy Boy, I think, has, again, he has this confidence. He has these ideas of Dota. I don't think he's ever somebody who's going to be willing to take a huge backseat to a game. So better for him to be a captain. But unsurprising, I mean, this bottom lane, I think it's just one of those, new to 5 positions things you got to recognize. You just can't be in the jungle, ever. You get found by these combination of heroes, this tusk tear you apart.
And Eve, my God, he's going to get vacuumed back into the triple member of 4 Zoomers. And that is another death in this bot lane, which might have to get abandoned soon if they're not careful. The tag team has absolutely wrecked them, in addition to the Ion Shell, which you talked about specifically against a Terrorblade anyway. Just any magic damage against such a low HP but very high armor hero. Pretty value overall.
Yeah,
and even mid lane, 34 and 7 to 29 and 8. So I feel like they're winning every single lane here.
Yeah, they really are. The reason they make that rotation, by the way, is because they got the Helm of Iron Will on Kunkka. So, like, now this really strong laner has the best laning item already, especially against a minus armor combination. So they're like, he's free. He's really not going to get pressured that much. So we are free to be able to rotate our support out and crush bottom lane even harder. I think that was a great read.
Yeah, both him and Gunnar have that. That's why Gunnar has been able to sustain everything in the mid lane as well. Esk is level 6, still holding that 6 point. We'll see if he wants to transition over with that exorcism to try to take a tower or at least do some damage. But, I mean, having said that, Divine Llama is having himself a pretty good game. He's going to get set up with the cookie here into the gush. Lots of minus armor thanks to the Little Shredder as well. X, Costabile, trying to TP out as apparently Sammy Boy dies again. But at the very least, Wildcard Gaming get a big kill onto Kunkka, just barely in the top lane. And that's a wasted TP as well.
Yeah, no, that was a massive kill, because this bottom lane is a disaster. I mean, Sammy Boy, it's at that point now where Eve's like, okay, I'm a Terrorblade, I can go jungle, but Sam just cannot stay in this lane alone. He's not going to get that bit of experience. And Eve, even if he shows himself for too long here, he's going to get run down. He needs help.
Yeah, there's the wall, and Esk, he does TP in with that Exorcism, and there's the Sunder being used onto Z-Freak. Moo gets off the Surge, but looks like he's going to drop as well, potentially. So a nice turnaround from Wildcard, baiting 4 Zoomers a bit. Maybe a little bit too cocky from them this time around.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I think when you can recognize that you're losing all these lanes, they're going to go on mid too, even trying to force the shapeshift perhaps, but nah, it's too late.
Yeah, Gunnar, a pretty difficult kill. I mean, if Sammy Boy was level 6, but only level 4.5 right now, as we're a couple minutes away from that level 10 XP boost, and even that won't be enough, I don't think, for the 6. So Costa Bile working on the armlet. I mean, it feels like a lot of cookie cutter builds this game for 4 Zoomers. I guess the one that I'm not sure of is Moo, who is going for the mech, it looks like. Is there a specific build that you like to see? Looks like top lane Divai Llama is going to get completely surrounded and brought down. But what kind of itemization would you like from Moo? Like, do they need a blink initiation this game?
I don't think they need the blink because they have these other forms of initiation in Tusk and Kunkka. I would have liked to see the Aghanims. I feel like that's the natural, like, if you want sustain and tankiness and teamfight in fights, nowadays, Darkseer's, it's not the mech that gives you that, it's the Aghs. So I'm a little bit surprised by this.
Yeah, only the recipe away, so 500 away from finishing that, and I would assume with that they're going to try to maybe 5-man this with the Helm of the Overlord. As Esk going to get snowballed in, not able to use the Illusion Rune to dodge anything. He's going to stuck inside the shards and TPing out to safety. He will be successful in a huge Ravage from Divai Llama, turning it around again in favor of Wildcard Gaming. It will only be a support going their way, but that was looking really bad for a moment there.
They had that kill, but Z-Freak, he misused the Walrus Punch. He had it, I think he had it auto-casted, and he accidentally right-clicked on the illusion. So it's just like, that stun and that big burst of damage just goes away entirely.
As we see the replay here. Nice attempt on... I mean, I think you can dodge that with the Illusion Rune now, right? Like little mini, like, Manta, kind of. Wasn't able to do it this time, though.
Yeah. That is the one thing. It's like, Wildcard, they do have this really strong team fight. So 4 Zoomers, even though you win lanes, you have to respect the team fight.
Oh, Sammy Boy with a nice Nightmare, keeping himself safe. Husky can continue to right-click, but he's going to get cookied. Still has time-lapse available. We'll use it, and we'll go through the wall to help take out Sammy Boy at the very least. And Alex will TP out to safety. It'll just be the 1 kill for now. You can already see how much they just want to 5-man this. Is 4 Zoomers, which isn't a big surprise considering the lineup. And Esk, there is an urn on Husky, so...
And if they've already used Ravage, they don't have that mid lane defense anymore, right? They may have this really strong team fight on Wildcard, but it's a team fight that comes at a hefty cooldown, so they're going to try anyway, though.
Yeah, the cookie is there, and he's going to be locked in place. Has the boat coming out for that damage mitigation, but it's not going to be enough to live. So nice turnaround again from Wildcard as they're going to chase Gunnar. No ult for 18 seconds. TP, nope. Gunnar gets Fiend's Grip. So double kill for Esk, and he has, let me see the net worth here. He's bounced back quite nicely. Top 3 right now in net worth.
Yeah, in fact, this is one of those like great holds where you're able to defend the enemy mid lane push, and then you're just like, okay, we've popped ultimates, nobody's here, let's just go ahead, hit their mid tower. So they're actually going to be the ones to take it first, it looks like. But 4 Zoomers coming in.
Yeah, looking for a potential deny now. Costa Bile with the X. Not really going to do much with it. So 1K net worth lead for Wildcard Gaming. They get first blood on the mid tower, and they have top as well. So it's a 2-to-1 advantage in terms of just the buildings. Item advantage, let's see. So Eve has the Dragon Lance working on Yasha now. You can see Esk going for the Yule Scepter. So definitely got off to a bit of a slow start. Has the Phase Boots and 2 Null Talismans right now. Oh, this okay, back to this conversation that I'm sure you've heard many times, but I love talking about. The Tide Hunter. So is Blink needed on him this game?
I think there is a way for them to just be able to, similar like 4 Zoomers have these other sources of initiation. I think the initiation for Wildcard is just rolling at towers with Meta and Death Prophet ult, so.
As they roll to another kill here in the enemy triangle, and we'll probably try to continue to snowball this game with, I mean, the fact that they're down a tower and they have the pushing team is good news for Wildcard at the very least.
You could see 4 Zoomers, they just shrug off some of these losses and they just run at him again. I mean, we've had 15 kills in 12 minutes. Like, these guys, even though they may have some heroes that can be a little passive, they're not treating them as such. 4 Zoomers just constantly running into Wildcard side of the map.
It feels kind of like an Arkosh game, except with actual good players playing.
Yes, they're confident.
Range, right? So mech was finished, as we saw, and it will be Aghanim Scepter still on Mu, just obviously delayed because of the mech. And I mean, when is go time for 4 Zoomers? Because it feels like they're poking and prodding, but they're not really fully committing to like this 5-man death ball.
I don't think there's any like one specific time, to be honest. Like when they get BKB on Kunkka, like that'll be a big pickup, a big window for them when they get Aghanims on Darkseer. But to be honest, I feel like their timing is mostly just exploiting lack of meta or Ravage or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we see the Nightmare on Z-Freak. Costa Bile is in the vicinity. The Snowball is going to be dodging pretty much everything here. Sammy Boy, as usual, first to die in this engagement. So it turns into a 5v4. Alex actually pops his ult, but really didn't hit much as Mu pops the mech. He's going to surge his way to safety. The Ravage is not going to connect on Mu, so he will live, but it does connect on 2 others. Gunnar just going to run away in wolf form, and looks like that was a wasted Ravage in the end. And now the chase is on for 4 Zoomers. Do they have the vision on the high ground? Husky gets it, but time-lapse is back, so it looks like they want to retreat.
Yeah, I think like chasing after that, totally unnecessary. You got what you came for. They use Exorcism and they use Ravage. You know, give it a solid like 30 to 45 seconds, and I think you start getting aggressive again. Eve actually popping meta as well for this attempted kill on Costa Bile.
Yeah, he doesn't have a TP for another 20 seconds. Buys the Soul Ring in the shop. Sammy Boy in the vicinity as well. Has Fiend's Grip available. They just need a little bit of vision. They're going to get it here, and there's the Fiend's Grip, but the Snowball to cancel with the Walrus Punch, and Costa Bile and company want to turn this around onto Sammy Boy. Looks like Z-Frick is just barely going to walk out. And Costa Bile with the armlet toggling, keeping himself safe, and they do find the Bane in the end, and it's going to cost a touch. So 1-for-1 in terms of supports, but the core Kunkka gets away. And meanwhile, while that was happening, Gunnar top lane doing his thing with the tomato.
Yeah, and he's getting into the enemy triangle as well. You can see they've got some really nice aggressive vision. They're not giving this Terrorblade the space to be able to just sit and farm up Ancients and run down lanes with the illusions. Like 4 Zoomers know that they need to be able to slow this guy down, because Wildcard, I think, are the bigger ones with the timing here. Of like once they get to that Scotty, that's when Terrorblade really becomes a big team fight beast. So it's definitely, for my money, I think 4 Zoomers have to take control of the game before then. And I think in about like 2-3 minutes, that is going to be their biggest window. Helm of the Overlord, Aghanims on the Darkseer, and Kunkka just being able to have whatever damage items. He is going to go BKB next. Like, if they can complete just those first 2 items, I think their team fight, they just got to constantly run at Wildcard.
Right. Now, speaking of Costa Bile, what do you think of Boots of Travel's second item in this game? Is that a little greedy, or... Because it feels like you're talking about, they're trying to hit this timing, and he's just stuck with no damage right now, or even tankiness other than the armlet.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's a little weird, but at the same time, I think 4 Zoomers want to play this high-pressure game, and they want to be playing all over the map constantly. So in that regard, I think one of their cores having that Boots of Travel does make a lot of sense, and Kunkka's going to be the one of the heroes that takes the most advantage, right? He can X-Marks himself, like TP up to a side lane that's pushing in, deal with that, and then come right back. I think it's not a bad idea.
And Alex is going to TP out of the bot lane. You can see that Roshan is being attempted by Wildcard. The question is 4 Zoomers even remotely aware of this? You can see the Ion-Shelled Black Dragon is making his way over. Rosh is about at half HP, and the Exorcism is half duration as well, so this would be a really good fight for 4 Zoomers if they're able to wait out this Exorcism.
Yeah, they knew that, like, there's no way they're letting this mid tower go away for free. So they check over that pit. A nice read by them. And if anything, you pointed out, lots of physical damage and minus armor on both sides. With Exorcism down, 4 Zoomers might try and go into the Roshan pit themselves. Maybe not specifically for Roshan, but maybe just to see if Wildcard will try and take a team fight against them without that big team fight spell. They still have Ravage and meta, but Exorcism is still a significant part.
Yeah, indeed. As see a little posturing mid, and it feels like all about Roshan. And this is kind of delaying things for 4 Zoomers to be able to finish the Aghanim Scepter, which you talked about being so important for Mu. So about 700 away from grabbing that. That'll give him the 2 charges of Ion Shell and the extra HP to each target that it's applied to. And he's just doing his shenanigans with this Black Dragon. Is this still like the best creep to get? Or is it kind of dependent on the lineup? Because if you're pushing maybe in like a team fight, you want the Ancient Granite Golem or the Thunderhide for a specific carry to be able to right-click.
They got burst damage, like the Golem's nice. I think if you have like one of those hard carries, the TV Medusa, I actually think Frenzy from the Dragon is, or sorry, not the Dragon, the Thunderhide guy. I think that is actually bonkers and really underrated.
Yeah, but they don't really have that. I mean, I guess Lycan can turn into that type of right-click carry. Obviously, actually, I'm surprised he even has boots. Can you tell me? This is a mid Lycan, so I don't see it nearly as often, but I know most Lycans just skip boots for a very long time. What's the reasoning here?
I think it again is about like being able to play so much of the map. I think for Zoomers, they want to play a pretty fast tempo game, and movement speed is a big part of that, right? If you're just slow at moving from side to side of the map, you're not going to be able to approach that much pressure.
Oh, we're going to see the Fiend's Grip on Gunner, and they have no way to cancel. Husky does get the kill on Sammy Boy, because of course he does, but it's going to cost them a mid Lycan. So big kill for Wildcard.
Another Ravage used, and they're near the pit. I think Wildcard's kind of tempted to try that Roshan again after they were chased away last time.
30 seconds with no Lycan. This will be a hard contest, but Kostabile has his boat to try to get into that pit here. And they have Swarm to potentially give a small amount of vision. Ice Shards are there as well. You can see Wildcard very hesitant to finish this, but there is the meta, and they're committing with the Exorcism.
Z-Freak's gonna go for the
and
steal.
The snowball coming in, but looks like Eve ends up taking the Aegis and the Roshan, so Z-Freak inside the pit. That's gonna be the Aegis combo. Again, his Metamorphosis is done, so he can't pop that now. The sleep on a Kostabile, and Lycan is up and TPing in. S gets off the Exorcism, still going. Finally comes back to him as Moo just barely gets out. He's ticking away ever so slowly. And Kostabile running as well. So nobody has died for 4 Zoomers. And Sammy Boy, again, the lone death in this engagement. As we'll see if it continues here. Remember, Divide Llama does not have the Ravage for another 80 seconds. And Alex continuing to be chased by Husky. Very annoying here to deal with in this Weaver. And finally, Moo is taken out thanks to the Crypt Swarm. But it might cost him Divide Llama at the very least. And he's getting chased down. There's the Spirit Siphon. And again, still no Ravage to work with. So it's going to be an easy kill going the way of 4 Zoomers. And they got rid of the Aegis in quick succession. And it looks like they're going to get a huge kill on Esk as well.
Nicely played team fight, I think, from 4 Zoomers, and being able to recognize that if they can blow up the TB the way they did. I mean, just imagine if they do manage to snatch away that Aegis, it would have been entirely different. But it's still really good. Like, without meta and Exorcism fading away, you know, you're set up in a pretty good position in these prolonged team fights. You could see them playing the back and forth, in and out. I mean, Moo specifically, the wild man that he is, he came back in with like 150 HP. He paid the price for it, but you could see the kind of style they have to play against Wildcard. They can't just necessarily take the straight-up team fights. They have to be able to, you know, play with this X marks the spot, play with the damage over time of Ion Shell, and just kind of like whittle them down bit by bit.
Yeah, and a very interesting pickup for Eve. We used to see this, I want to say like 6 months ago, pretty consistently, maybe a little bit longer. Aghanim Scepter on Terrorblade. So he's going to get the extra 10 seconds of Metamorphosis whenever he pops Terror Wave, which of course is that giant AoE fear. This is probably a distinct... you tell me, what is the reasoning for the Ag so early in this game for him?
I think it's, again, to be able to ward away some of that. Like, it covers up their high cooldown lineup, right? Because it means you essentially have 2 metas all the time. So if you pop one of them, you're still a threat in team fights. It's also a nice chain stun to be able to run with something like Ravage when you just want heroes to be controlled for meta and such.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Sammy Boy's dead. Number 10. He is 1 and 10. Did find a kill, apparently. Didn't even realize that. We're going to have a team fight here. The wall is already placed, but a huge Ravage on the entirety of 4 Zoomers with the Mortimer's Kissers to follow. Moo not able to surge out to safety, so 2 dead for 4 Zoomers as Eve gets up the huge fear. And with Gunner in Lycan form, he runs a pretty fucking far away from everybody. It's supposed to be that pops the BKB, but instant Fiend's Grip from Sammy Boy, who I assume either bought back or just has such a low death timer at this stage. And this is going to be yet another kill going the way of Wildcard Gaming. They do lose the Death Prophet, though. And Gunner still posturing here. getting chased down. They basically lost everybody for 4 Zoomers, and he does have a TP, but he has to be careful. They have a lot of ways to cancel this. And Gunnar is the... Well, looks like they find Alex on the backside as well. The Wolves taking him out as Gunnar's doing some nice micro in the meantime. And he's actually going to go down. The Centaur ends up stunning Eve in the midst of all this.
I definitely feel like 4 Zoomers is running out of a little bit of time here. I mean, they just ran into that 5-man Ravage. I'm looking at him like Divine Llama is right in the middle of them. And yeah, Ravage is off cooldown. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to win this fight. Honestly, I think a big part of the only reason that these fights are going okay for 4 Zoomers is this Weaver. I almost wish Husky was a greedier player and would be going for some of the builds like I saw Zephyr do in Southeast Asia, where he went like a Gleipnir build on his Weaver, because he is destroying in these fights. Like, he's managing to run down so many of these support heroes. So these heroes get like super low. He's always able to find the finishing blow, and as a result, he is super farmed.
All right, speaking of super farm, though, Eve is way on top. He is starting to really separate himself. He's going towards the Scotty now, has basically 3K discrepancy just between him and Gunnar. So that is a hero that, I mean, the stronger he gets, Cap, I mean, that wall from Moo, it scales just as well. If not, actually, it goes higher, right? It's 120% damage for the illusions when they come out.
Yeah, that is like the... I think that is the only danger for TB at some point in time, is going to be that wall of replica. I really feel like because of this Aghanims built up, once he hits this Scotty timing, I think Wildcard have such a massive advantage when it comes to the team fights. But 4 Zoomers can still outplay them on the map because they have this Lycan, because they have the Boots of Travel, X marks the spot. They're going to have to try more for outmaneuvering Wildcard, because I think in these straight up 5-on-5s, I think their chances of winning are getting slimmer and slimmer.
And it looks like Wildcard able to get out in this top area for the most part, as Alex might be caught out here. And yeah, we're going to see Z-Freak with the snowball, Sammy Boy. I mean, it wouldn't be a real fight without Sammy Boy going down at the very beginning of it, or the end, depending.
Even when you think it's Alex who's going to die, it ends up being Sammy somehow.
I'm sure he's happy with. I mean, his net worth is not very much, so the kills on him aren't worth very much either. So that is one saving grace, I suppose.
I mean, to be honest, I think I know what I would be doing right now. I'd be hyping myself up. I'd be like, yeah, go ahead, kill me, Husky. Like, you think I care? We're the ones winning these team fights. My TP is huge. You know, that's how you console yourself as a 5 position for dying once every 2 minutes, you know?
But it has to get, like, deep down inside, you do feel a little bad. Because you're playing a video game and you're dying over and over. Oh, even if it makes sense, you know, conceptually, it just, instinctually, it just doesn't feel right. It's Alex. He's going to be found out and brought down easily.
Oh, well, now I just know that you're not a masochist, Suns fan, but some of us are.
That's true.
All right? Some of us like dying over and over again.
That is a good point. I know Cinder for sure is a sadist, because every time we play together, he's very happy when I die. So it's all about whether you're a masochist or a sadist or none of it, which I guess I would be.
What do you think Jenkins is?
He's just a beast. In the most negative sense possible. He is a degenerate beast.
An absolute animal.
Like, if he ended up in an asylum, would you be surprised? Because I wouldn't.
No, not at all.
As Eve has finished the Scotty now officially, Divine Llama is actually about 70 gold away from finishing Aghanim Scepter, so the AoE Gush is going to be pretty nice. Esk has his Shivas, still long ways away for BKB, and then from 4 Zoomer's side, Gunner's obviously had the Helm of the Overload for a while, and 200 away from Assault. What is Moo working on? It looks like BKB next, and then Costa Bile is going Silver Edge. So kind of an older school Kunkka build. Doesn't work exactly the same as it used to, obviously, but
yeah, I think that they will actually have the damage to be able to threaten this Death Prophet and blow her up at the start of every fight. But I'm getting more and more concerned about this bottom lane for Wildcard, because if you look at their heroes, they don't have like the easiest way to address this freely split pushing Lycan Wolves and the Helm of Dom creep that comes in. So it's going to be something we have to keep an eye on for sure.
Well, let's keep an eye on Divine Llama for now. He's going to get X-marked into the boat. The Kraken Shell activates. He gets off the Ravage, but the Snowball basically counters all of it. He's stuck inside the shards now. He gets cookied up to the high ground, and here comes Eve with that meta. Of course, that is just the Terror Wave usage, so it's going to turn back into the melee form very shortly. Looks like Weaver's going to be able to shoot Kuchi away, so Husky somehow lives. Eve's stuck inside this wall. Gunnar continuing to chase as you see the Exorcism pop, but Eve is left all alone, gets off the Sunder, but basically doesn't get any HP after the fact. And now Gunnar continuing to chase. The X-Marks brings him back. A huge kill for 4 Zoomers, and the waste of the Ravage, and Exorcism as well. So 4 Zoomers going to be able to take out Sammy Boy. Again, 13 deaths for him. That is a giant fight for 4 Zoomers here.
Oh, massive. Because now Costa Bile, he's going to push in this top lane, and the rest of his team, they're going to take over the map. They're going to be able to maybe take this mid-tier 2. They're going to stop Wildcard from finding hardly any farm. They're just going to be kind of left inside their base, and this is where you start choking them out, right? You play for this next Roshan. If you get that, you choke out the map for a couple more minutes, get yourself an even bigger lead, and then I'm not sure if they're going to be okay with straight up 5-manning and just like rushing that high ground at any point in time, but they can just continue to hold this game hostage and kind of starve Wildcard out. TB will be super farmed. Yeah, he'll be the one collecting all the farm, but I think you're going to find that Astkin and Divine Llama are going to start falling a bit behind if this is going to be the case.
Yep, Sammy Boy was trying to find well, he's kind of annoying Z-Freak, but with the Boots of Trava, Costa Bile just finds him very easily with the X. So we're keeping count. 14 deaths now for Sammy Boy, my boy. Gunnar pops the ult. Trying to chase Alex a bit. Gets the cookie to the high ground, though, so we'll likely be safe. But vacuum back in. Moo. All right, X into the boat as well, but Eve gets off the fear. Looks like he'll be able to walk away. 85-second cooldown for that, but still has meta to work with if they actually want to fight. And there we see the Aghanim Scepter, Divine Llama Gush, which against all these summons is actually really annoying to deal with, just the slow alone.
Yeah, and considering his 2 different cores, you know, heavy physical damage, being able to hit everybody like this with this minus armor, whoever Death Prophet chooses to fight, they're still go for it.
Kills from afar. Yeah, Mortimer's Kisses is here, but doesn't look like they're going to find anybody. Still, you can see how annoying that is to deal with, especially on the retreat.
I don't know, Suns fan. I mean, Costa Bile had BKB that entire time. I'm not sure if you want to be blowing a big cooldown like that when Roshan could be up. I'm not sure if they've checked inside the pit, Wildcard that is. But 4 Zoomers certainly know that Roshan's up. That's why they're making this smoke play.
Indeed. 5-man smoke now onto the high ground. Alex gets blinked on by Z-Freak and punched into the air. Torrent to follow. He is dead. Eve has to use the Metamorphosis. This would be a potential game-ending kill. And you see the normal punch used, but there's a huge Ravage from Divine Llama. Can Eve get off the Sunder in time? He does. It's on Sammy Boy. Of course it is, because he's just going to die anyway. Pops the meta. Continuing to right-click inside the wall here. We see the snowball come in, but this is going to be the death of the big Terror Blade. Does have buyback, but with no meta, what does it matter? Esk, still the Exorcism popped. And you can see Gunnar just running away casually. And he does buy back on the Terror Blade. I guess he does have the Terror Wave, so that's a 10-second meta that he could use to fight. But 4 Zoomers winning this fight again.
Yeah, I think Wildcards, they might put themselves in an awkward position of trying to do Roshan here. 4 Zoomers, it's not like they've got that big of cooldowns. They may not have wall, but I think they could still kind of poke. So Wildcard will wisely back away, but at the same time, you've now used your buyback for nothing on TV. This feels really bad. I don't know. I'm watching these fights, and I'm just like, last time it was the Ravage without the TB there. This time around, you know, this Tidehunter doesn't even get here until Eve. It's not like Eve is going to be able to deliver damage. It's too late. He's already, you know, under attack. He's not the one going on somebody trying to finish him. So these fights are just starting off so bad for Wildcard because they're just not playing around each other enough because of all the pressure around the map that 4 Zoomers is putting on.
Yeah, and I mean, typically at this stage with a Satanic, obviously you wouldn't be going Ags normally on a Terrorblade. We'd have something like Satanic, right? To be able to at least withstand and just right-click and stand your ground. But we'll see if the Aghanim Scepter, I mean, it hasn't really paid off yet, that's for sure.
Yeah.
As, ooh, 4 Zoomers, they're going to blink immediately. The normal punch onto Sammy Boy, number 16, if you're keeping count at home. And that is a second death on Divine Llama, and that means the Roche Pit is ripe for the picking. Double damage on Costa Bile as well. Should mention that Gunnar did go the Shard on Lycan, so the extra Wolf is going to spawn with the wave. And he is going... Oh, they leave the Aegis and Shard. Okay.
And apparently a little disagreement of who's taking it. Sounds like Costa Bile finally realizes, right, I'm Kunkka, but I'm still the carry, so.
Yeah. Does he keep the Shard, though? It does have the Aegis now. Shard on him. I mean, it's... What do you think of Tidal Wave? It feels like it's a very hectic spell that is hard to properly use, but this is at a pro level, so...
I think it's sick. I was playing offlane Kunkka for a while solely because I thought both his Axe and Shard were amazing. And I think at this game, just think of what TB wants to do. First of all, he wants to stand there and right-click you, but he wants to get away from that wall as much as possible. And Costa Bile now has a somewhat of an answer to both of those, a disarm and a way to be able to reposition this TB back into the wall. That is the killer for this Terrorblade every time.
I've seen the build where you're off lane, you go like Octarine Core. Is that the build you're talking about? That was disgusting.
It's fun time.
The Ags and Shard.
You get a little bit of water park. Who doesn't love a water park?
Yeah, it's the waterbender build for Kunkka, as the great Pop-Tart says. Costa Bile just going to go high ground now with that Aegis. Nothing to fear. And there's the Tidal Wave doing literally nothing, but it looks cool.
Very cool. Very nice.
And they're going to get the tier 3 tower. But now, potential fight here. Eve, he pops the Terror Wave, but the Snowball is going to mitigate not only that, but also he actually goes into the Ravage, but it is just Z-Freak by himself. They use 2 ults to take him out. Moo with a nice vac wall on it. So many heroes, but the BKB is popped from Eve at the last moment, and Costa Bile with a ridiculous amount of damage thanks to this Tidebringer. And when you see a big bad metamorphosed Eve on the Terrorblade run away, that is not a good sign. It's a 4v3, still with Aegis intact, and 4Zoomer just picking Wildcard Gaming apart here.
I got it. Last Ravage on a Tusk only? Like, oh no, that feels so bad. And one of the bad things about an early Ravage usage is that you don't have that counterplay. When they go in with a vacuum wall, that's a great time to be able to Ravage because it saves you so much grief from the illusions that come out and allows the TB a bit of time to reset and continue to be on the offensive. But when it's down, they don't have a way to really get themselves easily away from that sticky situation. And now they're just going to get run over, it looks like, in these team fights. No meta, I don't know how they fight this.
Yeah, it's looking pretty impossible. Sammy Boy not quite at 20 deaths yet, so still something to play for. Is they're going to get their second set of racks here in all likelihood. And we did see Gunnar bite somebody, by the way. I'm guessing it is Costa Bile. It's just such a weird target, but we'll have to pay attention to see how that looks with the Tidebringer. You get the crit, you get the shared lifesteal, so definitely not bad, just not traditional at all. And into the top lane they go. Eve, he does have Terror Wave, so that's 10 seconds of meta he does have at his disposal. But the buildings are going down really fast. Finally pops the Terror Wave. You can see 4Zoomers. They're not scared. Moo jumps in with the normal punch. Eve gets punched into the air as well. And GG is called for Zoomers.